Thanks. First of all, I have to apologize because I have a very bad English, so I can try to do it as better as possible. And thanks, Stuart, because of this intervention. There are some things that I would like to say, but I'm not going to repeat it, about the achievements of the social process in Venezuela. So I'm going to talk about this debate, who Stuart is talking about the strategies and which is the future of the process and the questions that are now debating the basis of the movement. I think the Bolivarian process in Venezuela has put very important all questions again in the table about, for example, is it possible a revolution in the 21st century? Because now, I remember when I went to the World Social Forum in Caracas, and we were organizing a talk, a meeting like this, that we did in different countries of the tendency. It was about, is it possible a revolution in the 21st century? So we did that with John Holloway, who was talking about the strategy of making the revolution without taking the power. And we were with pamphleting in the forum, and when the people from Venezuela take the papers, they read the name and ask us, what is this question about if is it possible or not? Obviously it's possible, we are doing it. So I mean the question is very different now, is how can we win a revolution in the 21st century? And in that way, what's happening in Venezuela today? Is there a social revolution, a political revolution, a process, or what's happening there? I think the fact that a political revolution took place, it's very obvious. It's an institutionalized, we can see that in the institutionalization of the new constitution or the new laws and the new relationship between the masses with the new political system. We came from a 50-year, from a very corrupt system from the 1958, with a very huge gap between people and politics, and it has changed drastically. And even if you see the attitude of Capriles, the candidate of the opposition in the last election, you can see this institutionalization of a political deep change. He was talking about defending the social measures, and he was presenting himself as a progressive, and he was talking in a way similar to Chavez, and doing the political axis has changed in Venezuela. But I have the question about can we talk about a social revolution today in Venezuela? And I think there is the debate on the table about reform and revolution. Mainly, what's a revolution? Who is the subject of a revolution? If the socialism is can be built from above, from the political leadership, or must be built from below, from the active action of the masses and the self-organization of the working class, the peasants, and the people in the neighborhoods. So first of all, I think it's important to see the relationship between reform and revolution. Don't see them as opposite and absolutely different things, but as different Marxist theorists developed, there is a relation between reform and revolution. When a revolutionary process starts, before establishing a new socialist society, there are some reforms that can be achieved, and this is important because it can bring better conditions from the people, and at the same time these reforms can be useful for pushing forward the revolutionary process in the terms of people can organize to extend these reforms, and especially to defend these reforms from the offensive of the reaction of the right. So I think in Venezuela we have seen an ongoing example of this theory. Chavez won 13 elections, and they impulsed all these social programs that Stewart was talking about, in terms of education, health, basic services. But at the same time, I think there are some elements of a revolutionary process from below in that way that it's very important to understand. In that way, I think the reaction of the oligarchy against this reform was the key. Basically in 2 points. In each election, the organization of the people against the right, the social media, the massive media, and the whole system was very important. But I think there were two moments where the self-organization of the people was the key of the situation, and it was in the coup d'etat in 2002 and in the bosses lockout who took place. About the coup, Chavez was imprisoned, and the right appoint the new president of Venezuela, the president of the bosses organization, who is very significant for the situation. And in that moment, the masses from the poor neighborhoods went to the presidential palace and defeat the coup d'etat and won the support of a part of the army, and Chavez was put again in the presidency. In that moment, community organizations were multiplied, and the alternative media, newspaper, radios, were multiplied as well for the obvious necessity of organizing alternative. And a few months later of this coup d'etat, the state, a bosses lockout took place, where the whole oligarchy and the whole political parties, the media, organized a bosses lockout, and they stopped the economy with the main point in the PDVSA, in the petrol station, in the petrol sector. And in that moment, the workers' self-organization was key to defeat this lookout. And it was 3 months lookout, and people started to organize because the old trade union, the corrupt trade union, was calling to the lookout as well. So the workers started to organize new trade unions. They started occupying some factories and putting the production running again, and the distribution of the oil and lots of products. So it was another very important inflexive point in the process. But when a revolutionary process starts, like in these stages of the Venezuelan recent history, I think there are only 2 possibilities: or to move forward or to die. The history show us that importance of a revolution can't be slowly. It must be go forward until the end, because if not, the reaction will win in some moment on another one. And in that sense, I think the debates inside the movement are reflecting this fear of millions of people and all these strategy debates that are fundamental today. And I want to organize these main debates inside the movement in 3 main groups: about democracy, the role of the workers, and the timing of the revolutionary process, which are very deep related between them. About the question of the democracy, it's one of the main current criticisms inside the Chavez movement. You can see lots of articles or criticisms about the grassroots militants or organizations talking about the problems to control some instances of power, or some even inside the Chavez party. The main problem with this is bureaucracy, that I think it's very obvious that exists in the process, and it's very, very powerful in some places, that is stopping sometimes the radicalization of the process and the extension of the demands and the movement. And in some cases, it's directly embracing the corruption and using the public resources to and their own enrichment. And it's called by the movement like the Boliburguesia. It means like Boli bourgeoisie. It's inside the endogenous right. And In terms of the problems of lack of democracy, when this bureaucracy controls different stages of the state and the party, for example, there are different internal party elections when the grassroots organization of the Chavism are criticizing that they voted for a different candidate, but at the end, Chavez himself named the candidate who lost the internal elections. I think this is a very, very important problem of what kind of socialism can be built in Venezuela. And in some, more openly, in some electoral meetings of the last elections, there were very hard situations where you have a Chavez and the governor of the state doing a meeting, and the people were cheering to Chavez very, very hardly, and at the same time they were jeering to the governor of the state. No? So this shows the very deep contradiction and the very deep, strong who is taking place inside the movement. And I think the fact that Chavez won all these votes in the last elections, can be explained because Chavez represents for all the people in Venezuela, and especially to the people who is with the process, Chavez represents the political change, this political revolution, the social reforms. But these people who support Chavez at the same time it's very, very concerned about the paper of the bureaucracy in the process. And this electoral result of the last election, with lots of people voting for Chavez, can be put in the context of the last regional elections, where these middle and local level Chavez candidates lose in very important places. For example, in 3 of the 4 main states of Venezuela, the opposition won the elections. I mean, almost 80% of the population live in the 6 or 7 main states. So I think there are very important signals of these problems, on how the people is perceiving the development of the process. Well, so about this contradiction of this fight about the empowerment of the people and the control of the bureaucracy from above of the development of the process, I think is one of the main points of debate today. Another point I think is key is the role of the workers in the process, because there is a fact that you can see the peasants' vote to Chavism has maintained in a 70% or more since the beginning of the process, but the workers' vote to Chavism has decreased almost to the half. So it's another symptom of something that should be taken account. Okay. So there are different explanations, I think, to this fact. For example, the priority of the politics, because the very demanded work law in Venezuela needed 9 years for being approved in the parliament, even with a huge majority of 100% in the National Assembly. So it was a very an important thing. And more strategically, the importance of the economic power, it's obvious in the capitalist society. And with the bosses lockout, we saw the very key important role of the workers in the process, where they saved the political process. And since the beginning of the Bolivarian process, the workers' self-organization has improved a lot, from 2,000 trade unions in '99 to more than 7,000 unions today. And the struggles are growing since the 2007 for better conditions. These struggles are taking place in the private sector, but also with a very importance in the public sector. And I think here it's important to see because there are accusations to the workers who are defending some conditions, like they are struggling in favor of the right because they are fighting against the process. But I think that's very, very dangerous, because they are fighting sometimes because teachers or nurses who want to earn the money of Christmas in the beginning of the month, not some months before, because of the inflation, they are going to lose a lot of money. I mean, they are very, very logical requests, and putting them in the reactionary band, I think it's a huge contradiction about what is socialism about, I think. And another point in this, another debate in the workers' role in the process is about the independence of the trade unions movement, because the trade union who was created, the confederation who was created against the lookout, has been playing a very important role in all these struggles, but now a different confederation was created and clearly linked to the political party and to the political process. So I think that there is a debate in Venezuela about what means the independence of the social movement and in concrete of the trade unionist movement. And the question of the nationalization is the other big point in the paper of the workers, because there were lots of occupation, as Stewart said, but in each occupation there were the debate of who is going to take the control of the factory or of the industry, if the workers or if the state bureaucracy. And in the most of the cases, the bureaucracy was who took, maybe not at the first moment, but in the different stages, the control of the factory. And I think that's another important point about what's the workers' power and the people's power. And the last point is about the timing of the revolution, because all the people is talking about the transition from capitalism to socialism needs time, but anyone is talking about how much time it's needed, because I mean, we have 13 years of process in Venezuela, and Chavez himself has said some days ago, the socioeconomic formation that still prevails in Venezuela is capitalist and parasitic. Socialism has hardly started to introduce its own internal dynamism among us. So I think there is a very strong debate at the same time about what is the urgency to going forward or to creating this hegemony in the election process, and the people who is talking about extend the socialism today and tomorrow and the next day, and the people who is more talking about generating this slow process towards socialism. And yeah, for finishing, I think the conditions for a huge process of deep revolutionary process are there in Venezuela. And the point is, it must be called. An example is when there were a threat of assassination of Chavez some years ago, and Chavez in a meeting said, if they kill me, people knows how to do. They have to take the streets, take the factories, take the land, and make a revolution. I mean, if people can do that, why the Socialist Party of Venezuela is not pushing for that tomorrow? This is my question. And Rosa Luxemburg was theorizing about these revolution, reform and revolution processes, and she said that the conditions, when the conditions for a revolution beginning exist, there are no reason for wait any maturing process. The depth of the revolutionary is to push for this revolution, and if the masses are not prepared for this revolution, they will learn in the process. We don't have to be afraid about what can be wrong in the revolutionary process led by the masses. So I don't know what the weight is for in Venezuela, and if, well, as I said, if this possibility, as I think it is, of taking the control of the whole industry, the whole society, the neighborhood, with the communal processes, is there, I don't think we shouldn't be afraid about what the masses could do wrong. And I think the real problem, who we should be afraid now, is about the problems who the bureaucracy stopped are making now and in the current process. And I think this is the fact who is opening the door to the right. The internal problems of of the own process, more than the people who is struggling for more achievements for the masses. But I think Venezuela is a very dynamic and open and alive process, and there are very powerful social forces who still have a lot of history to write.